Chapter 41, Safe Haven. Date, 33,480, Iron Confederacy. The march to Thalia's settlement took 2 more days, though the valley's sun never seemed to shift far enough to offer comfort. Each step dragged like a weight through mud. Some of the freed captives limped barefoot, leaving thin tracks of blood in the dirt. Demir pushed the cart, now empty of planks, but laden with 2 exhausted men who could no longer walk their bodies, nothing more than sticks wrapped in skin. Every so often he glanced at his own companions. Sin walked ahead, shoulders tight, his jaw set like stone. He had cried the night before, but now grief had burned into something harder, and anger so sharp Demir feared he might shatter at any word. Timmy, limping but determined, stayed near Marco. He asked questions about herbs, about stitches, about how to spot fever. Marco answered in clipped tones, his mind clearly still half in another world. The world where patch notes mattered and wikis were law. Yet Demir noticed the way Marco's hands steadied Timmy's bandages without complaint. Celine drifted among the other freed slaves, offering what comfort she could. She carried herself like someone used to responsibility, someone who had held too many broken people together. Demir admired her strength, even if it came out mostly as weary silence. And Demir himself. The initial victory rush and loot dopamine was fading. He felt everything and nothing. The victory at the mines should have lifted him, but all he carried was the weight of choice. They had struck a blow, yes, but what now? Where could they live that the goblins, or worse, would not find them? The question gnawed until Thalia's scouts led them through a narrow pass. At first, Demir thought they had reached another dead end. The cliffs rose sheer, blocking sky and sun. But then one of the scouts whistled, and a hidden gate swung inward, logs scraping stone. What opened beyond made Demir stop in his tracks. A basin stretched wide inside the cliffs, hidden from the outside world. Timber walls encircled the inner ground, broken by 4 watchtowers. Each tower bristled with archers whose bows tracked the newcomers until Thalia raised her hand. Beyond the walls a settlement lived, not just survived, but lived. Cabins and huts lined narrow dirt streets patched with stone and clay. Children darted between them, their shouts carrying in the thin air. Smoke curled from chimneys, filling the basin with the scent of roasted meat and burnt wood. A crude aqueduct ran from a cliffside spring, trickling into barrels and troughs. The noise struck Demir hardest, not the metallic clangs or hammer beats, though he heard those too, but the laughter, the casual rhythm of daily life. The sound of people who had not given up, who had built something with their own hands after 4 years trapped. For the first time since he'd entered this world, Demir felt the shape of hope. Marco's breath hitched audibly.
200, maybe more. They built this from scratch. Do you know how much labor this would have taken, even in a game system?
Quiet,
he muttered without looking back. Timmy, eyes darting wide, whispered,
"It feels safe."
He wanted to believe it. Demir heard it in his tone. Celine gave him a gentle nod.
Safer than chains. Timothy, that's enough for today.
Demir said nothing. He scanned walls, guards, the distance between huts. Safe, yes, but also fragile. A single siege could starve them out. A betrayal from within could burn it all. He didn't let himself breathe too deeply. Inside the gates, the rhythm of the fort unfolded. A cluster of men and women dragged in the day's hunt, a pair of deer, a scattering of hares. Their skins went one way, the meat another, divided at a central post. Barter stalls lined the edge of the square. One player displayed crude bone charms. Another offered patched leather gloves. A third sold bundles of wild herbs, each labeled with careful handwriting. A group of children born here, Demir realized with a jolt, ran past chasing a stick wrapped in rags like a ball. Their laughter echoed. They had never known real worlds, never seen skyscrapers or roads. This world was their only world. Further on, Demir caught the sharp smell of molten iron. A makeshift smithy sat near the wall. The fire burned low bellows, wheezing. An anvil sat pitted with use, tools hung on pegs. The smith at work was thin soot streaking her arms. Her hammer blows sounded weaker than Brovik's, but still it was a forge. Demir's pulse quickened. But Thalia didn't let him linger.
It's not a real forge, and she is not a real smith. She's just trying to repair.
Demir said,
Anywhere that melts iron and has a hammer is a forge.
but walked beside Thalia. The freed were gathered into the hall at the center. Inside, torches burned against stone walls patched with timber. A long table stood at the far end where 7 figures sat. The council. One man wore battered chain rust at the edges. His eyes were cold, weighing every soul like numbers on a ledger. Beside him, a woman with long braids leaned on a bow taller than herself. Others wore scraps of gear from forgotten raids, patched and repatched, their faces weathered. Thalia stepped forward, her voice firm.
These are the survivors of the goblin mines. And this is Demir Stroven. He fought with us.
She turned, gesturing to the long table.
For their sake, let me name the council so there's no mistake. At the centre sits Commander Roderick Vale, our leader since the 3rd year. He commands the walls, the hunts, and every sword this settlement owns. We rotate with him on expeditions.
The man in chainmail gave a curt nod, his face like stone. Beside him, Thalia continued.
Elandra, sure our hunt mistress. Without her bows, half of us would have starved.
The tall bow woman inclined her head, eyes sharp as her fletchings. To her left, Mathis Crowell. Thalia said, motioning to a lean man with ink-stained fingers and ledgers stacked before him.
He keeps count of food, wood, and every scrap of iron. Numbers don't lie, though. Sometimes we wish they did.
Mathis gave a weary shrug, quill still tucked behind his ear. And lastly, Priestess Nea of the Hollow Chapel. Thalia's tone softened. A woman in tattered white robes raised her chin, her hands folded tight.
She tends to the sick and reminds us there's more to life than scraping by.
And myself, Thalia finished.
You already know.
The man in chainmail, Commander Roderick, spoke first, his voice like gravel.
Survivors, yes, but mouths to feed. You expect us to stretch rations again?
Elandra cut in.
Better to save than let rot. They bring knowledge of the mines.
Thalia pressed on.
And Demir can craft. He said he made those gear himself. Look at it. It's better than what we loot from goblins.
Roderick's expression soured.
Yeah, but it's still shit. We can't win the game with them or trash we got from goblins. We can't even go to high-level zones to meet high-level player settlements.
Thalia countered. Thalia countered.
You forgot human development, Rod. He can always get better.
Roderick shook his head.
There is no mechanic for getting better.
The council broke into bickering voices, sharp, each arguing about food safety worth. Demir heard only fragments until one word snapped his attention. Iron Prince. A councilman spat it.
The Iron Prince of Dwarves grows fat while his kin shrivel in their mountain cities. He trades with goblin chieftains, iron for coin gear for peace, all to keep his throne warm.
Murmurs rippled through the hall. Demir's chest tightened, just to stay on top. Like anywhere in real politics, the thought left him sick. When the council dismissed them, the newcomers scattered. Celine latched onto a group discussing trade ledgers, firing off questions about resource management, farming cycles, hunting zones. Demir caught the old glint in Celine's eyes, the gamer obsession with systems returning full force. She might be old, but without the game becoming a cage, she was playing it like a management game. Timmy found a small circle of locals, tending wounds. He joined, wordlessly cutting strips of cloth, fetching water. His hands shook, but he kept moving, trying to drown grief with duty. And Marco found a place to sleep. Celine blended easily, speaking to other freed women, trading tears for embraces. Demir saw her shoulders loosen slightly the first time in weeks. Sin refused all of it. He sat against a wall, silent, watching with eyes that burned. Every passerby looked at him like a cornered wolf. Demir let him be. And Demir himself wandered. He traced the settlement with his eyes, its walls, its watchposts, its fragile balance. 200 people clinging to life, now increased to 2,000. They called it a refuge, but Demir saw it for what it was, a city perched on the edge of collapse. By nightfall, most had settled. Fires burned in pits. The smell of stew lingered heavy. Demir slipped away, his feet leading him back toward the forge. The smith was still there, hammering a dented shield back into shape. She looked up, gave him a once-over and shrugged.
Need something fixed?
No, Demir said softly. His hand brushed the hilt of his sword.
Something made.
Her brow arched.
Forge is open. Tools aren't much. Fire's fire. I can't make anything new.
She stepped aside. Demir exhaled. He placed his hand on the anvil. It felt cold waiting. From his pouch he drew the faintly glowing stone, the one Kilgore had pressed into his hand. Its engravings pulsed gently light, humming against his skin. A rune. A mystery. A promise. He laid the steel on the anvil, rune in hand. The forge fire hissed. This is it. He thought, heart hammering. The start of something new. He whispered into the dark voice, barely a thread.
Let's see what you become.
Chapter 42. Aftermath. Date 33,480. Chalice Theocracy. Hey kid, wake up. What happened here? Aris remembered the voice of Fox cutting through the fog in his mind. The words swam through Aris's skull like echoes underwater. His body felt as if it had been hammered on an anvil. Every breath stabbed at his ribs. His nose ached with sharp fire. Something warm and soft pressed against his legs. Blinking through the haze, he lifted his head a fraction. Fox sat there, peering down with amber eyes full of concern. How is he above me? Am I on the ground? Aris's thoughts stuttered, scattered, chasing themselves like broken glass across stone. Then everything rushed back at once. The whispers, the fists, the fire, the silence, the blast. Midnight ambush. Fox's voice slithered in his mind, quiet and sharp.
You didn't kill the kids, right?
Aris swallowed the motion, painful. Morning light was bleeding through the corridor's tall windows, burning his eyes. The witness stone's strength had long faded. All that remained was fatigue and emptiness. No superhuman endurance, no divine spark. Just bruises and blood.
I don't know.
He rasped. Before Fox could answer, the air split with shouts. Make way. Open up. Heavy boots thundered down the hall. Students scrambled aside. Rathvos arrived like a stormfront armor, creaking face thunderous.
What the hell happened here?
The Templar barked, scanning the wreckage. The sprawled Fey boys, Aris bleeding in the middle, scorch marks burned into the walls. He crouched, hauled one of the Fey kids up by the collar and snarled.
Call their damn Fey chaperone. Tell her stupid students failed ganging up on one kid.
His laugh was sharp, cruel, echoing through the corridor. Rathvos turned back, planting his bulk over Aris.
Yesterday and today you impressed me, boy. Didn't know you were all tooth and nails. Maybe there's a Templar bone in you after all.
Aris thought bitterly. He thrust out a gauntleted hand. Aris groaned, hesitated, then clasped it. Rathvos yanked him to his feet like a rag doll. Pain screamed across Aris's body, but he forced himself upright. Behind them, Fey students had rushed to their unconscious friends. Their glares burned holes in him. No gratitude, no forgiveness, only raw hatred. Aris tried to croak out.
Are they okay?
One Fey girl spat at his feet. Another hissed words in their tongue that dripped like poison. Kinday, a mass. Rathvos growled, looming over them.
Your precious sliver stoneflower sent her little pack to settle a score. They failed. You want someone to blame? Blame yourselves. You need protection, kid. From your human side, can't play nice with all races. Not in this place.
The words stung. But before Aris could respond, a wave of perfume and frost swept down the hall. Priest Vela, the Fey chaperone, strode in. She was tall and ethereal, with pale skin that seemed to glow with inner light and silver hair that moved like liquid mercury. Her eyes were the color of winter ice, and when she looked at the fallen students, then at Aris, those eyes narrowed like knives.
This is unacceptable. A human?
Rathvos cut her off with a barking laugh. The tension crackled, both teachers standing off, but finally Vela snapped her fingers, and her students floated into the arms of healing sprites. She left without another word, though her glare promised this wasn't over. Rathvos grinned wolfishly.
Come on, Aris. You've earned a trip to the infirmary.
The infirmary smelled of herbs and boiled linen. Aris lay on a cot, while a healer dabbed at his cracked nose and bruises with stinging poultices. Fox slipped away his tail, vanishing through the door. He reappeared only minutes later, brushing against Lyra's legs as she entered. She wore her fey guise, delicate features, shimmering hair, but her eyes carried the same sharp glint of the spy. She sat briefly at his bedside, voice low.
You look like hammered iron. Heard you rattled some cages. I thought I said don't use it on students.
Aris tried to grin, but it came out crooked and painful.
Just trying to stay alive, and I didn't use it. Not all of it anyway.
What does that mean?
She asked.
When they were about to seriously hurt me, Smite filled in my mind like a recent memory. But I tried to stop remembering your words. I didn't want to hurt them, and...
Before she could say more, the door swung open again. Rathvos stumped in, trailed by a tall human boy with neat dark hair, a scar across his cheek, and the easy confidence of someone who had seen blood before. The kid reminded Aris of Demir, but raised by maniacal religious people. Lyra's expression hardened. She rose, casting Aris one last look, protective but laced with warning, before slipping out. Fox patted after her, tail flicking.
Don't mingle too close with Fae.
He said, as if reading the room.
Even when they work for the Academy, you'll learn fast.
He clapped the tall boy on the shoulder.
This here is John Salsor, upperclassman, Dungeon 4's rising star. He'll take you into the human student circle. You need allies who won't stab you in the back at midnight.
John studied Aris with cool appraisal, then cracked a grin. Aris, still aching, nodded faintly. His body felt broken, his spirit raw. But some small ember flickered. Maybe he wasn't completely alone anymore. The infirmary hummed with low chants as a healer smoothed the paste across Aris's cracked nose. His body screamed with every movement, but he clenched his jaw. Rathvos's heavy boots retreated, leaving him alone with the tall boy, John the Salsor. John leaned against the wall, arms crossed. His scar caught the lamplight, and his grin had that dangerous ease of someone who'd survived things worse than duels.
First lesson, kid.
He said,
Humans don't get to be neutral here. You fight or you fold. And folding? That's death.
Aris blinked, groggy but listening. Great, another meathead speech. But maybe there's something useful buried in this posturing. Keep listening. John pushed off the wall, pacing slowly.
Fey kids run together. Beasts can form their packs. Even halflings keep their little trade circle. But humans? We're scattered. Chalice doesn't exactly love us.
He spat the word chalice like it was bitter wine.
But the High Priestess is human, right?
He asked.
Nah. She sees herself as an angel. Everyone for themselves.
Aris's mind pricked up. Finally, someone saying it out loud instead of dancing around it.
So we make our own circle.
He continued.
Unofficial, but solid. Upperclassmen watch lowerclassmen. You get beaten. We beat them back twice as hard. Someone disappears. We find out why. Alone, we're targets. Together, we're dangerous.
Aris nodded faintly. Sounds more like a street gang than classmates. But gangs survive, and I don't plan on being the next basement accident. John crouched closer, lowering his voice.
There are 3 groups you need to know. 1. The Loyalists. These are humans who bow to Chalice, play lapdog to the priests. They get better dorms, better food, maybe even a pat on the head. But they sell the rest of us out. Stay clear unless you like knives in your back.
Aris swallowed, staring at the floorboards. Lapdogs. Same vibe as those Fae who tried to kill me last night. Easy to see how they're used. Maybe I can use them too.
2. The Ghosts.
He said, eyes narrowing.
Kids who don't last. You know the kind. Too slow in the dungeon, too trusting in class. They vanish. Everyone knows the theocracy's doing something with them, but if you ask too many questions, you'll join them.
A chill ran down Aris's spine. He remembered Lyra's words, the Forbidden Library section, the ledger she hinted at. Ghosts. Missing kids. That's not rumor, that's fact. Keep your mouth shut, Orvelis, but keep digging.
3. The Circle. That's us. We don't kneel, we don't vanish. We fight for each other tooth and nail. We watch the Fae, we watch the teachers, and when they test us, we hit back, hard.
John's voice hardened, his grin fading into steel.
That's how I made it through Dungeon 4. Not because I was the strongest, because I knew someone had my back and I had theirs.
Aris shifted, every bruise flaring.
And you want me in this circle?
He asked.
Kid, after what you did to Sliver Stoneflower, you're already in. Half the Fae wing wants your head. The circle wants you on their side.
I am pretty good with my beastskin friends, and any other race, actually.
He said.
Right now, maybe. When push comes to shove and dungeons after dungeons when faced with actual death and despair, only those with their backs solid will survive. Unless you are a prodigy with unlimited potential.
Aris forced a thin smile. Fantastic. Drafted into a schoolyard gang war. Still, if this circle really knows about vanishings and they're tracking Fae and priest politics, then they're worth keeping close. John clapped him on the shoulder, too hard, sending a bolt of pain down Aris's ribs.
Heal up. You'll need it. First circle meet is after curfew tomorrow. We'll see if you've got the guts to stand with us.
He turned and strode out, confident as ever. Aris leaned back into the cot, staring at the ceiling beams. His nose throbbed, his chest ached, and the healer scolded him for trying to sit up. But inside his thoughts burned. Witness stone or not, Fae or not. This place is a pit. If the circle can be used to peel back Chalice's secrets, I'll play along. But trust? That's another matter. I'm not here to be their soldier. I'm here to survive. The healer dimmed the lantern, leaving him in half-darkness. Aris closed his eyes, Fox curling against his feet.
The feeling of mashing 2 spells. That was different. I should try again. It could be a hidden feature.
He said to himself. Chapter 43, Forging Ahead. Date, 33,400 Iron Confederacy. Demir stepped into the forge for the first time in this settlement, the smells of molten metal and soot filling his nose. The hum of bellows and sparks flying against steel felt familiar yet foreign. Here the walls were reinforced with salvaged plates, racks of weapons lined up and enchanted runes etched into some rare pieces. This was no dwarven village, this was human ingenuity pressed into survival. Sin, Timmy, and Celine lingered at the doorway, watching, anxious but curious. The twins had barely slept since the mine rescued, their eyes still clouded with shock and grief. Yet now, surrounded by humans who had endured 4 long years, a spark of purpose ignited in them. Marco was sleeping like there was no tomorrow. Demir picked up a roughly shaped steel ingot. He attempted something he'd never done alone, forge a weapon with a rune slot. His experience with armor taught him the basics, but weapons were a different discipline. He carved, hammered, and folded the steel into a blade following what he remembered from games. The edges were uneven, the balance awkward. Sweat ran down his temples as he muttered,
Maybe if I try, no wait the rune, it should,
The first attempt ended in frustration. The blade bent slightly, and when he tried to inscribe a rune, a small shock of magic sputtered and fizzled, burning a faint scorch into his palm. The weapon looked more like a dull practice piece than the gleaming instruments he had seen in the hands of real warriors. "Thought you said you were a crafter," came a familiar voice. Demir flinched and looked up to see Thalia walking into the forge, her red hair catching the torchlight. She folded her arms, her brow slightly raised.
Armors and blades are different beasts. I learned only armor, but this I see now. I thought it might be similar.
He admitted, gripping the blade.
I just wanted to try. I need to make something to defend my friends.
Thalia nodded slightly.
Ambition is good, but rushing without guidance can be dangerous. Let me show you something.
She gestured toward a partially assembled sword on the rack.
See these rune drawings? These are left from the old days. Each one has a channel that must align with the weapon's spirit. Even when the game was working, creating overpowered stuff was a game on its own. You need lots of practice.
Thalia examined the stone of power in his hand.
That looks like a stone of power. It is not the best grade, but it's a miracle in these times. Forge something that complements that rune.
Demir exhaled and nodded. He set the blade aside.
I'll keep practicing.
Next week, another party is leaving for another loot run. You might want to attend. I am not leaving this time, Thalia said.
I will definitely go,
he replied.
Come now, we will interrogate that talkative goblin.
While Demir stewed in his failures, Thalia guided him toward the council chamber. The settlement's central hall was fortified with wooden beams, watchtowers peeking through small windows and banners marking different human clans. 5 figures dominated the room. Thalia, a skilled mage and the settlement's coordinator, moved with quiet authority, her sharp mind overseeing both defense and logistics. Roderick, clad in chainmail and weathered by countless skirmishes, exuded a blunt strategic presence that demanded attention, a true leader. Elandra, a bowwoman with eyes as keen as a hawk's, scanned the room constantly, her mind always calculating angles and threats. Mathis, wiry and precise, meticulously kept records and managed resources, his ever-watchful gaze missing nothing. And Nea? A healer and mage, radiated calm and quiet authority. They were mid-debate over how to manage food manpower and the recent intelligence about the Iron Prince's dealings with goblins. Whispers of, he trades with the chieftains, feeds his own while others starve, and expansion threatens neighboring settlements, floated across the room. Demir quietly entered, Sin and Timmy behind him, Celine holding her head high despite exhaustion. The council paused regarding the newcomers with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Thalia introduced them, emphasizing the twins and Demir's recent heroics in freeing slaves from the mines. A few council members muttered under their breath about mouths to feed, but Thalia's insistence on the survivor's value quieted dissent. Suddenly, a commotion near the rear of the hall drew Demir's attention. Kazak the goblin, responsible for much of the mine's suffering, had been brought before them. The creature was bound, struggling against the chains, his eyes flicking between humans and Demir with a mixture of fear and cunning. Thalia gestured sharply.
Kazak will speak.
Demir's heart raced. After days of tracking and fighting, the chance to confront Kazak in a controlled setting made his fingers itch for a blade, but he remembered the first attempt at forging and hesitated. His sword lay at his side, useless for interrogation but comforting in its presence. Kazak's snarled voice hissing in the human tongue he had painstakingly learned.
You think you've won humans? You meddle in forces you do not comprehend? This world is ours now.
We are not trying to take your world. We are trying to survive. And if possible, flee, Helandra said calmly. Roderick barked questions precise and cold, while Nea observed Kazak's responses, noting inconsistencies. Elandra kept her bow trained on the goblin's limbs, ready to respond if he acted out. Mathis recorded every word, and Thalia moderated, ensuring the interrogation did not become a free-for-all. Demir observed, understanding more about goblin society in a single hour than he had in months of combat. Kazak revealed hints about goblin trade routes, their rapid expansion, and, even more troubling, the possible complicity of dwarves, including the Iron Prince, in supplying weaponry. Demir's stomach churned as he recalled the blades and armor he had fought. Suddenly, Kazak's voice, harsh and frantic, cut through the council's discussions.
Unnatural expansion cannot be stopped. Let me go. Soon we will take here. You think we don't know where puny humans live? Soon after, the Iron Prince will lose his footing and dwarven cities will be ours as well. We only acted like it was a fair deal, taking their pathetic items. Once we conquer them, they will have no choice but to craft us the finest weapons.
Demir suddenly jumped forward.
How many of you? How can you be so confident?
He asked sharply. Mathis, the wiry quartermaster, adjusted his glasses and spoke with measured certainty. Elandra, eyes narrowing, added,
And they will never leave their burrows. Doesn't matter how many gather, these goblins lack the coordination to contest us.
Kazak's gaze snapped toward them, frantic, his confidence flickering into anger.
Believe what you want. We are unlimited in numbers with what we have, and we have smarter people guiding our chieftains. You cannot imagine what we can do.
There were goblins who could judge armor pieces with the naked eye. How could you do that when my armorsmith master couldn't do that? Demir pressed. Kazak smiled with malicious satisfaction.
There are so many things you humans don't know. The world is ours to play with now.
Thalia stepped between them, voice calm but firm.
Enough. Threats and boasts achieve nothing here. Demir, continue your work.
The council's murmurs faded into the background, his focus sharpening. Demir went back to the forge. He hammered and folded the ingot, feeling every vibration, every subtle resistance. The blade was crude, slightly bent but sturdier than his first attempt. The rune slot remained elusive, magical energy flickering like a stubborn flame, resisting every attempt to embed it. Demir wiped sweat from his brow, nodding.
I'll keep trying. One day, I'll understand it.
Hours passed. Sin and Timmy watched silently, occasionally offering small encouragements. Celine moved among the freed humans, distributing food and water while casting discreet glances at Demir, a quiet pride in her eyes. By nightfall, Demir had produced his first crude weapon, no rune slot edges, imperfect but functional. He stepped back, observing the result. Thalia studied it with a faint half-smile, half-amused, half-approving.
You learn fast, Strovan. Not as fast as you think, but fast enough to survive,
She said.
It's a start.
He gave a faint smile. Marco finally woke from his eternal sleep and looked at the first attempt with his enchanted glasses.
It's an F-grade start.
Chapter 44. New Alliances. Date 33,4080. Chalice Theocracy. Aris was packing his stuff in a cloth bag, rolling the witness stone into his night pajamas. Slightly limping with his bruised face, he took direction to classes. He couldn't fall behind now that everyone thought him extremely strong.
Come on, Fox.
He called. The academy priest wasn't as good as his master, but she had healed him enough to walk and get to class. When he arrived at the classroom, Fey students were all looking at him like a mortal enemy. Even Auric and his halfling classmate didn't open space for him to sit. On the other hand, human classmates had already opened him the best seat. One even placed baked goods on his desk.
I thought you haven't eaten any. Enjoy Aris.
She said with a warm smile. I don't like this, he thought.
I could eat.
He said hopefully.
Familiars should wait outside or in the dorms.
She corrected gently. Maizana. The class magic teacher entered with another faculty member, a Fey teacher they'd never met. The newcomer was a young Fey woman priest who looked like a vampire and floated like a fairy, her pale skin seeming to glow with inner light and her movements unnaturally graceful. All right, class. I am hoping yesterday's dueling grudges are past behind us. We are going to learn new spells, all of which are necessary in Dungeon 2. I'll let my colleague introduce herself, Maizana announced. The Fey woman walked forward with ethereal grace.
I am Healer Mirith Donsinger. Today, with your teacher, we will show you basics of protection.
She was looking at Aris with both disgust and interest, interested like how this kid defeated 5 of our kin. But things in this academy weren't sitting right. Teachers clearly ran pairing without race issues, but starting from common folk and among students, they were dividing based on race. She continued,
You all heard by now your friend Aris is a living example of this.
She pressed the word living unnaturally.
If you can defend yourself with correct protection spells, you can determine who lives and who dies. There are 3 types of protection spells: physical, elemental, and mental.
One of the Fey students jumped up eagerly. She said with a know-it-all tone. Mirith hissed at her.
That is far beyond your comprehension. Live through the 4th dungeon, and those who choose the Templar route can learn that.
Again with combination. There is something there, Aris thought. She walked toward Aris and whispered to him,
The question is, how could a first year perfectly execute it?
And walked in front of the class again. Maizana took over.
Unlike what you know, there are 5 branches of schools taught in our academy, and each one of them has to know how to protect themselves.
Mirith added,
You kids, for a number of reasons, thought only priests and Templars existed. But there are other routes. Well, realistically, too, I don't think any of you can take the route of profit like our leader.
Maizana continued.
Anyway, these routes you should think about further along the path. Now, Healer Mirith here halted her progression toward being an Inquisitor, which is a very dangerous and difficult occupation. She graduated 2 semesters ago, and I asked her to demonstrate her protection skills against mine.
Oh shoot, Aris thought. I don't have any spell slots. How can I fit it into my title? I should have to gain new titles. But Temple Root shields might be different than Mage Branch. How am I going to explain that? When Aris was lost in those thoughts, Maizana materialized light missiles toward Mirith, and Mirith materialized a faint glowing shield 1 meter in front of her, deflecting the missiles.
Look, I will increase the number of missiles,
she said. She sent 30 at once to the same location with extremely good precision, shattering the shield. Maizana was breathing heavily.
I can break that shield with sheer force and my might, but when I am tired, she only used 1 spell.
Mirith was looking unfazed. Now one more I will show and we will start teaching correct forms, Maizana announced. This time Maizana created a giant glowing hammer and hurled it against Mirith, and Mirith's shield easily maintained itself.
As you can see, it is even effective against high-impact single attacks. But the downside is you can't counter with any spell while holding a shield.
She explained. Aris looked really hard, remembering getting the bzzz interference when masters showed him their craft, but he didn't get any. I can't get any more spells. Is this the game's version of restricting players or locals? He thought. He didn't have any knowledge of the game, but most games limited learning spells to beginners, and Aris could count as a beginner even though he'd spent 4 years in the game. And if the game didn't limit locals from gaining spells during their title-earning journey, they could also become overpowered without fulfilling their potential. Aris wondered if they were still aware that game mechanics and world rules still applied set by the creators. Was Aris right? Mirith asked him a rhetorical question, clearly setting up something.
You are pretty far advanced than your peers. Would you like to show us some of your talent?
Sorry, Lady Mirith, I am not feeling well. Maybe other friends could be of use.
He deflected.
Healer Mirith. Healer Mirith.
She corrected Aris.
We don't have lords or ladies in Chalice.
She said it in a hostile way.
All right. If any of you can already manifest physical protection shield, you can still learn, keeping correct form or enhancing it with a little bit of resilience.
He said, resilience, Aris thought. That also means putting pressure on the body, sacrificing your health to enhance something. They know the blood acolyte path and are keeping it secret, and giving slight hints to use it. That class Aris noted every way to keep correct form and wordings down to the last detail, but that would have to wait because he had no way of putting that spell in his roster. Fox outside the hall was waiting.
Come on, Lyra wants me to call you to the library. She got something about witness stones.
He whispered. Aris once again entered the library. What a change, he thought. His first weeks now seemed small, not just their faith or book count, but space itself. He took his place and opened a book, his mind busy with how to recharge the witness stone or gain another title to learn shield. Lyra lingered at her desk with a book. Covering her librarian side, she said,
Here, young Aris. This is the book you have been asking for.
You can cut the act. Halflings are all at that corner. Fae left after taking their books.
He said.
Aris, I might to leave the academy for about some time. I am investigating that replicator you found. Even though I can't travel there, I am hearing from my other sources. Some races are having an insane amount of manpower.
She explained.
Like?
He asked.
Like goblins.
He said.
What? They're limited with potential. They're trying to compensate with numbers. Clever.
He observed.
Yeah, that's also concerning.
She agreed.
What am I going to do when you are gone? You said you'd help me find a way to recharge the witness stone.
He said desperately.
This book.
She pointed to the book she'd used as an excuse to sit at the table.
I stole it from the head librarian. A faculty member returned it to her specifically. I saw the headline and changed its casing.
What is it?
He asked.
I didn't have time to read it, but it's about runes and stones.
Finally, some use of your talents.
He said sarcastically. Lyra made ugly faces at Fox.
Read it, memorize it, cover to cover. It might be useful, but don't get caught.
The day they attacked me, I somehow used both Holy Smite and Protection. And today at the class, they were talking about Templars using combined protection spells.
He said.
What are you trying to ask?
Inquired.
Is it possible to create new spells by combining?
He asked.
Yeah.
She said simply.
Why didn't you tell me sooner? I can combine Healing Touch and Cure Disease and open a slot.
He said excitedly.
Aris, don't be stupid. I didn't tell you because you can't do it. It is a very high concept.
She warned.
I still have to try.
He said with determination.